ocean. Don't know if I'll make it back home.
Welcome one, welcome all to Unified's Minor League. Today we got AOE Zoomers versus Eastern Michigan University. It's a wonderful best of three ahead of us, and coming with me on the cast here is going to be Rare Adam. How you feeling, buddy?
Pretty good, Tristan. Just got off work, nice and hot outside as usual, and ready to cast some real Fire League of Legends here. And we got two really good teams coming at it. Both of these teams at 1-0. Of course, AOE Zoomers did drop one game last week, but Eastern Michigan coming in 2-0 in game score, so should be quite competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely two strong teams. They started off week one looking fantastic in their own rights. And going into this actual draft select here should be just a moment before all the players fill in. Do you have any predictions about this week? Do you think we're going to be seeing any specific champions?
I think that there's some potential for some interesting picks to come through, specifically for AoE Zoomers. I was looking at their mid laner, Ito, who is chilling right around the Masters cutoff there. So he's been playing a lot of Assassins, Akali, been playing the Echo, been playing the Katarina. So a couple of interesting picks that might come out, might adjust those bans just a little bit. But last week as well, played a couple of games of that Orianna, so shows some diversity in terms of the champ select. For Eastern Michigan, however, got a couple of pretty standard champion choices there. However, Mua in the jungle does like to pull out the Rengar from time to time, and that's a champion we don't see a whole lot. So a couple of, I don't want to say off-meta picks, but side meta picks coming through from either of these teams. It may adjust some of those picks and bans accordingly, but from what we saw last week, they like to play what's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would hope that some of those bans do not fall through, because I would love to see a Rengar jungle. How often do we actually get to see that come out in organized in competitive play? It's a blast to watch, and it really changes the dynamic of how you play the game. You get to play, yeah, you get to adjust your early game strategy, as Rengar is not going to really be affecting the lanes too much. But at the same time, once he hits that all important level 6 mark, suddenly your lanes have to completely shift their tonality and how they're playing, the respect they give. And if you let that Rengar get snowballing, he can really run you over. That being said, the same for those assassin picks in the mid lane. Come on, you want to see the fights going off. You want to see the aggressive trading. You want to see solo kills. That's what I like about some of these leagues. Players are a lot more willing to go for some of the more ambitious plays, rather than always worrying about where the possible roams could be coming from. And I think that's where the action can really fall through. Now, it looks like we're having a quick ready check on the players before we can get into the champ select. But I mean, I'm waiting for some of these big picks to come out.
Yeah, especially in terms of assassins, Akali's so strong right now, been basically picker ban in the LCS, as well as in a lot of those other pro leagues. She's just so strong right now. She's getting a couple of nerfs, but that's not coming until next patch, so we're still waiting for Akali to kind of fall out of favor. And considering how much these teams like to play Akali, actually both of them really like to pick that champion. You want to see that come through. You want to see the exciting champion, because what's more fun than watching Akali just one shot your entire team? Yeah, very fun. But regardless, as you were saying, like with the Rengar, very snowbally champion. We've got a couple of other interesting pickups here. Drug for Eastern Michigan likes to play the Zillion support, which is something that hasn't gained too much popularity, but is quite strong. So we'll just have to see what these teams opt to go for. Nonetheless, it's going to be some great League of Legends. I'm super excited to be casting for this.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine the combinations that can come out with Zillion? He's such an enabling champion, especially for if you want to go for a dive composition, if you want to go for someone hopping into the back line. Zillion can give them that extra speed to get onto the squishier targets. And then obviously the resurrection, the chrono shift. It's obviously going to be one of the best tools you have to really pressuring the backline, ensuring that even if they can escape the initial burst, it's going to be a round 2 coming in soon enough, and those extra rotations of the cooldowns can always be breathing down your neck. As we get into the champ select, looks like we have the blue side kicking off the picks and bans already. Nocturne is gone, answered by the Akali. Urgot is soon to follow. And so, yeah, a lot of those assassins you were talking about already being targeted out here. Akali, no surprise there. I mean, honestly, out of all the assassins we could see on the Rift today, I'm not too hurt about that one being taken away from us.
I think that, of course, the Akali ban is very standard, as well as the Nocturne ban. Right now, Nocturne is able to be played in 3 roles, has a ridiculous win rate in the jungle. They changed Stride Breaker so it doesn't give him a dash. Nocturne doesn't care about that because his ultimate's basically a dash anyways. You go right on top of someone and you can get that slow, 90% slow now, by the way. So,
Wow.
very strong champion. Urgot gonna get taken off the table as well, away from I Am Bald, who... as the champion choice suggests, plays a lot of Urgot, who is also bald. I don't think by choice, but probably by creation. So that's going to get taken off the table. Can be very oppressive in that mid game as well. Gets really tanky, likes to build Titanic Hydra, Stride Breaker. Eventually, he's just really hard to shut down. The Kha'Zix and the Viego bans are interesting, but we're already into that first pick, which is Xin Zhao.
The instant Xin Zhao lock, and they had that one cooking in the pot. And I'd like to think that Urgot is bald by choice. I'd like to think if he let his hair grow out, he'd have like a nice luscious mane flowing down his locks. And yeah, I think Urgot would look very handsome that way. But Ezreal on the other end of the spectrum, obviously going to be a very safe pick. Xin Zhao, the Crescent Strike, will be able to keep him safe if he tries to go for the long range poke in the fights. But Ezreal is a lot tankier than most AD carries can get. I mean, the Frozen Heart build, good luck to the Xin Zhao diving in on him. If he has Frozen Heart, how are you going to kill this Ezreal?
Yeah, Ezreal just so slippery in that sense where you can kite away from anything with your Arcane Shift. You've got a whole lot of damage with the Divine Sunder, even some Trinity Force starting to pop up here and there. So just very strong. And if you pair that with a Lulu, whether that goes support or into one of the solo lanes, just enables Ezreal even more to do so much damage in that late game. We're going to have to see some sort of draft adaptation. Something like a Karma would be really good, just to be able to catch up to the Ezreal. And I think that the reply here is very strong to kind of get back on top of this Ezreal who can get away really easily.
And having the lane pressure from the Karma, Jinx not known to be the strongest laner in the game, but that's kind of picked up for. It's made up for the fact that you have one of the best laning supports in the game in the Karma. It'll help you push out the wave. You can maybe contest with the Ezreal Lulu early on, and it's going to really give you more control of the lane state. And I mean, obviously the Karma shields late game when you have the Jinx that's just looking for that single reset to really pop off in the fight. It's gonna give a lot of utility there, as we see Lee Sin coming out as well. The question is, what are you expecting? Solo lane Lee Sin or jungle?
It's hard to say what to expect because they haven't picked 2 out of those 3 roles where he can go into. So very flexible thus far, and I really like the draft that they have gone with so far out of Eastern Michigan. It's not necessarily a meow meow champion. Yes, that is their jungler's name. I did have to say it on stream at least once. But it's very strong in all 3 roles right now, can be played. Generally, you look more towards those solo lanes where it can be more effective. As well, the Lulu can go there. So we're going to get to see how they want to resolve this draft. And especially on red side, when you have so many flex picks available, you can hide that until the very last pick, which is really smart out of Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. I mean, just always having to worry about the possible counter picks that Lee Sin can bring to either solo lane. It affects how you draft for sure, as we see second round of bans coming through. LeBlanc taken off the board, and more assassins removed from the mid lane. So it's potential that Lee Sin could end up just falling into that mid lane role and really filling the role when there isn't as many champions to choose from that you might be used to. Gwen and Echo answered other side of the board. Gwen, obviously a power pick for any top laner that can get his hands on the champion. You've seen it in LCS many a times, run over a lane, and it's been pretty popular all over the world as soon as it was brought into pro play.
Yeah, and I think that Gwen can be such a strong pick that usually goes unbanned, which is really weird. We're not going to see it this game. And of note, we get the set pickup, but of note, this Nautilus and Seraphine, we've got ourselves a real nice protect the Jinx comp, really just depending on Xin and Jinx to do all the damage this game for the side of AOE Zoomers.
I have a question. Who is that? So I'm assuming this is going to be a Karma top at this point. I'm not really sure where some of these supports can be shifted around to kind of fit the composition, but yeah, there is one thing that is absolutely clear about this composition. It is completely centered around getting this Jinx some resets, getting this Jinx excited to get onto the back line, but Mundo up into the... I'm assuming the top lane. There's so many flex picks at this point that really I would not be surprised to see this Mundo go somewhere else on the map. But this is a fantastic matchup depending on who he's up against, whether it be the Nautilus, whether it be the Karma, because he can negate that initial CC. There is a good chance that post 6 he runs you down in the lane, especially if he's up against one of the squishier champions in the lineup.
I think that this Mundo pick is super big brain. There's not a lot of magic damage coming out that's gonna be built up. There's not going to be a lot of AP built up specifically. Seraphine, Karma, they're going to build those supportive items. You're going to see the Shrelias, the Moonstones. Please not the Imperial Mandate. That item's awful. But some of those supportive items that can get picked up. And into Mundo, he's going to sit there and laugh off any of that damage. He can stack so much armor this game and sort of just run down the Jinx if left untouched. You've got the Lee Sin in the set for that dive potential, as well as Ezreal as your artillery alongside that Lulu. So honestly, Eastern Michigan have drafted themselves a really strong team comp. AOE Zoomers have a win condition that's very set. It is Jinx, but if Jinx does not get off the ground in that early to mid game, it's going to be really rough for them to translate that into the late game power that we normally see out of Jinxes.
Yeah, and I think Mundo, the trend you've seen since the rework, since he's available in competitive, has been a very counter-pick champion. You save him for one of the last picks, and if he looks good to take into the enemy team's composition, that's when you lock him in, and this Mundo has the potential to really be that thorn in the side of the Jinx, because if this Mundo stacks armor, I mean, Jinx is a reset-based champion. You're not going to get a reset for quite some time in a team fight, because you're going to be hitting the front line forever, it feels like, and by then, Ezreal and Lulu, at least they may have made mincemeat of your team. So that being said, I mean, we're finished. We're through the Champ Select. We will be waiting through a small spectator delay before we are into the game. Are there any final wrap-up thoughts you have about these before we're heading to our short break?
One thing to note. There is exactly one frontliner, or 1.5, we'll say, on the side of AOE Zoomers. We'll say that this one frontliner is the Nautilus. You know what sucks? When your frontliner gets thrown into 4 somewhat squishy champions, especially on the backline, something like a Seraphine, a Jinx, a Karma. I'm really going to be watching for this set, which we now know is going to that mid lane, to see how well he can position that showstopper, because if this set throws the Nautilus on top of the Jinx, on top of the Karma, Seraphine, the show's going to be over, because that Jinx is going to take a whole lot of damage. But honestly, we'll have to see how this one turns out, Tristan.
Absolutely. I am bald, not going to be playing a bald champion. And Mundo does in fact have hair, and so we're going to have to see if that powers him down a little. Maybe it's a possible nerf to him as a player because he has that nice little fresh cut on the rework on the new splash art. So we'll be back after a short intermission. Don't go anywhere, because when we are back from our break, we have game 1 of AOE Zoomers versus Eastern Michigan University. Welcome back. We are live on the Rift with AOE Zoomers versus Eastern Michigan University. Joining me, like I said, Rare Adam. He's one of the best in the business, and I'm glad to be working with him today. How you feeling?
Pretty good. One of the best in the business, man. You're really pumping up my ego this early. Okay. And of course, I'm with Tristan Cass. He's good at casting 2 esports, not just League, but Valorant as well. So, you know, our Twitters are somewhere on the stream, so give us a
man
follow.
Who can do both.
Exactly. Get you a man that can do both. But, you know, we were talking in the middle.
I am loving this, by the way. Are you seeing this Mundo on the screen?
I am seeing this Mundo on the screen. He's vibing in the bush. It's not as good as Moneyman Mundo, who drives his car around. That's my favorite skin.
That is, yeah. That's got to be one of the best. What is it even called? The speed animation.
Yeah, the home guard animation, and one of his lines says that he's been playing hide and seek from the IRS for years. So
no.
Great champion. But you know, we were talking in between the spec delay there, just about these team comps and how honestly the Nautilus kind of sucks here, and how Lulu with not a hyper carry also kind of sucks. But then again, we are casting this, we are not playing this one, so obviously they know something we don't.
Absolutely. Already. Ooh, dragging the Seraphine back in. A nice aggressive trade. She is getting smashed to bits here. That's what happens. You take one step too close to the set, and you are getting your skull cracked.
Yeah, the Amumu Cry emote, very fitting because that kind of sucks for Seraphine. Set with the fleet footwork as well. Really like that rune pickup. Gives you that extra little burst of speed after that first auto. Make sure you can get your full combo down in that sense, as well as giving you a little bit of that passive healing over time in the lane. So Kanji here is going to be able to keep up with Aito in the healing battle in a sense.
Yeah, especially when you're up against the Seraphine, you just get constant annoyance. Just like that. Level 2, oh, not yet reached, but they still do find the pressure onto the Ezreal. Retreats all the way back to his turret, does receive the shield. Ignite expended as well, but full control of the bot lane goes over to the Nautilus Jinx early on.
Just not respecting the power of Nautilus early on. One hook is all you need to start that snowball going. You see the exhaust is forced out, the heal is forced out, and Riley's looking for another one. Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, speaking of disrespect, you cannot be standing that close. You had a ward in the brush. You saw the Nautilus pressuring there, and as he reaches level 2, that would have been an Ezreal dead to right if that connected. Meanwhile, on the mid lane, Aito once again taking a bit of back and forth trading here. Both level 3 coming out fairly worse for wear.
Yeah, the main thing about set into ranged or melee versus ranged matchup is for the set, you have that Grit Bar, which helps you with that health regen. You have the Haymaker to block some of that damage, so not going to have too bad of a time in a lane, especially against someone as passive as Seraphine. Meanwhile, you can see topside, I Am Bald not having the best of times. Karma is a lot better in terms of bullying out melees because you have your Inspire, the Q, or the Spirit Flame, sorry, as well as your shield, so that if they try and trade back, you can block some of that damage. But oh my goodness, 3-man mid lane.
3-man mid lane. The flash still available for the Nautilus. Wind gonna charge him right on in. Zin's out 2 autos, 3rd one for the knockup, and it did take just a moment, but they do secure the first blood in the mid lane. Fantastic roam. The second hook to follow up. They're looking to double up in the mid lane as Zin's out flashing right to follow the Lee Sin. One more auto would knock him up, but it doesn't look like he's gonna have the distance just yet. Oh, still dashing in. He just needs a single more auto, but he decides to abandon ship before the teleport follows through. He does not want to be giving over the red buff to the set. That would be disastrous for his mid lane, and so he plays it as disciplined as possible, but his victory shall come in some chicken fast food.
Oh man, they're not stopping. Riley, my goodness.
A 3rd hook, come on now, that may be a little bit too much. 3rd time is not the charm. They'll back off and they'll take their spoils of war.
Yeah, honestly, great play coming out from AOE Zoomers. They're able to recognize that this set playing a little bit too aggressive. They get the flash out, but they're still able to pick up that kill. And of course, forcing the flash out of the Lee Sin as well removes a little bit of his playmaking. Of course, Lee Sin's still very mobile, but overall, really good group up. The 3-man getting the mid lane ahead, getting the jungle ahead. While they didn't really lose a whole lot on the bot side, Ezreal was forced to back a little bit earlier, and Jinx was just able to keep the wave in a good state. It's frozen in the bot lane right now, which is perfect for this Jinx into the Ezreal.
Yeah, and I mean, something a little bit crazy to see up top. This move is actually up a lot of CS. In fact, he's going to flash right on top of the Karma. He's got one for himself. He's level 6, levels the ultimate. He can actually take this 1v2, and that's Zin's out running for the hills, tail tucked between his legs.
Yeah, Zin thought they could make it happen. My goodness, stumbling over my words, but Mundo just a little bit too strong right now, able to get a lot of that healing off of the Heart Zapper, his new W, of course, giving you that kind of burst of heal at the end, as well as do a whole bunch of damage. So Karma, no match for that one, but really good play from I Am Ball to pick up that solo kill in the 1v2.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, like I said earlier, the Mundo is just waiting to hit level 6 before he can really start taking the fight to the Karma. He's up in CS, now has a kill. The Bomby Cinder's completed. His wave clear is going to be fantastic. It's going to get worse and worse as this lane goes on for the Karma. And as Lee Sin starts up the Dragon, oh, if he gets hit by the W here, he's dead to rights. Instead, does manage to dodge out there, but I don't know if he has a leg to stand on. He will be falling in the river all by his lonesome.
Yeah, Duraco's just tossing the cat out of the bag, and now they're going to pick up this dragon, most likely. Lee Sin, I'm not 100% sure what they were thinking, because there's no bot lane prio. Mid lane is starting to get pushed in as well. It seemed like it was a little bit of a sneak attempt, but it just went all wrong after Xin Zhao showed up.
Yeah, hand in the cookie jar moment right there.
Yeah, or hand in the cat treat bag. I don't know. Something like that. You remember have you ever seen those Temptations ads for those cat treats where the cat like jumps out to try and get them whenever the guy shakes it? That's all I'm imagining with the Lee Sin.
All I can think of is the meow little jingle.
Yeah,
right? That one was catchy. I don't care what anyone says. I got that on my playlist, and I do believe Lee Sin does as well. I mean, with a name like Meow Meow. How did I say that? Ooh, I am bald. It's the cleaver. Looking for the follow-up. Okay. No more poke outside of that. It always makes me nervous when Mundo starts chaining together those cleavers, because you never know when he feels he can just pop the ultimate, run you down, and even if you hide under your turret, there's a certain point where, I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have seen that Vandrel video where Mundo can just 1v1 turrets. Diving you is no problem once Mundo gets a few items under his belt.
And even at this stage where Karma hasn't picked up the Oblivion Orb yet, Mundo would be able to just kind of walk down, get that strut going, and start to smack his head, I think, against the tower or against the opposing Karma. So regardless, in this state, we have to see Duraco's try and make some more plays up on that top side. The Xin Zhao has a lot of early potential with the Wind Becomes Lightning into the Audacious Charge combo, the WE, and if you can get that knock up on someone who's not as mobile as or on someone like the Mundo, you can start to try and combo them down, try and pick up a kill for yourself, and it's really important to try and get this Mundo behind, because if this Mundo gets the 2 items, it's pretty scary, but Meow Meow, gonna leave that one.
Yeah, they are really not allowing this Lee Sin to sneak much of anything. That means willing to rotate. That's always fantastic to see as a jungler. Just knowing that your teammates are willing to give up some CS in their own lane to make sure that your jungle camps stay intact and keep your lead. And with that, I mean, Xin Zhao can run over the Lee Sin when he gets ahead. It is not going to be close. And a more offensive build for the Xin Zhao, as you see the Sheen 2 double longswords coming in already.
Yeah, going most likely for... I don't want to say it's Essence Reaver. Most likely going to go for Divine Sunderer, although Divine Sunderer only has one longsword in its build, so...
Yeah,
oh my, no, it's... Oh no, it's Essence Reaver! No!
What?
Oh,
No
okay.
shot.
So, the reason behind this isn't a very good one, but you never run out of mana. But you go Immortal Shield though next. You get a little bit of crit behind it. It's more so to do a whole bunch of damage. Normally you see that with the Hail of Blades, so interesting to see the Conqueror come out, but...
Who's he assassinating though?
Divine Thunder is such a good item!
Who can he one-shot on this team? I mean, there's a Mundo up top, there's a Set in the mid lane. These are some pretty tanky champions, and I'm not sure if the Essence Reaver is exactly going to give you that cut-down potential that you might be thinking, but hey, you know what? He's 2-0. He's ahead. Maybe he just wants to, really draw up his clear speed, dive under the tower. That's going to be the depth charge, setting up the Chompers. They get a lot of upfront damage, but as the teleport comes in, they decide to call it off. They don't want to risk overdiving and giving back their lead. In goes the Lee Sin, beautiful insect. He's got the high APM. Ado stuck in the middle of the team. Out comes the super mega death rocket, and who is actually getting assassinated here? The Lee Sin is left for dead, tries to flash over the wall, but it's right into the waiting arms of this Essence Reaver Xin Zhao. Oh, in goes the pile driver, showstop, back into the tower, but where is the follow-up? There is none left because the rest of your team has already seen the graveyard.
What just happened is Xin Zhao doing a whole bunch of damage in that one. I guess the Essence Reaver paid off, but of note as well, Craig's Gucci on the Jinx is able to pick up a couple of kills, and we were talking about how this is super important for her to pick up those kills. Because later on into the game, if she can start to snowball that lead, it will be pivotal for them to kind of transition that into the later game. But teleport down and just a little bit of an overstay. Really good kick from Meow Meow at the end of that. But Seraphine just able to flash over the wall and just a little bit too much damage in the early game coming out from Zoomers.
Yeah, perhaps the decision to chase down the kills there was not what they should have gone for. I mean, they survived the dive. Their top laner had the push, could have picked up a lot of plates. I mean, maybe just you just back off there and allow your victory to come on other parts of the map. Instead, the overcommitment comes back to haunt them. And yeah, Jinx picking up kills is oh so important. Look at the Kraken Slayer now in the inventory. Tanks do not mean nearly as much as Ado chases all the way back to the tower. The Set forced to retreat for now.
Yeah, that of note don't mean as much, or they don't mean as much for now. The Kraken Slayer on its own does not cut through a Mundo. You need to start to build up, Lord Dominic's maybe second item here to start to really accelerate that through for the Jinx. But it's good that she has her Mythic as well, the second one of the game. Karma already has a Moonstone Renewer. Interesting choice in that one, but good to see that the side of Zoomers are picking themselves up a little bit of a lead. They're up 3,000 gold right now, and if we're looking at the individual gold differences, 1,000 gold advantage for the Jinx and almost 1,700 gold for the Xin versus the Lee Sin.
Oh, and that's Mundo reducing the CC he takes there, but the cleavers don't follow up. Karma will be able to get all the way back to her turret as Craig's Gucci plays the 1v2 down the bot lane, just waiting for this Nautilus to arrive, and he's coming from the river. Do they play this aggressively? Death Charge is available. Ooh. Hook in, but the nice Arcane Shift timing will keep him safe, canceling out the buffer.
Yeah, really good play from Resican just to stay alive, get out of dodge there. Looked really interesting because instead of going directly backwards, kind of went to the side, but regardless, Riley has been really good with these hooks. This is the power of the Nautilus. You just got to be really careful in the later stages of the game to see how Riley can play, because Nautilus doesn't get as tanky as some of these other pure tanks, like the Mundos, so we'll have to see if he can play these fights effectively and stay alive to keep the Jinx as safe as possible.
Yeah, and these hook high hit rates could come back to help him out. Out comes the Mundo ultimate. He's looking to get the second cleaver down, but can't land it. That should be the end of the play. But you see right there the potential of the 1v1. It very nearly came through, and despite him not being able to secure the kill, it's still a 1-for-1 as far as summoners go. It wasn't that bad of a trade.
Flash for Flash isn't the worst case scenario. Karma's Flash will come up a little bit earlier. She has those Ionian boots, and effectively, the Mundo just needs to maybe not predict as much. You saw Fordola the last couple of times has just walked straight, but fighting in the bot side.
Here comes the depth charge, and this Lulu is going down early on. Here's the encore. Riley escapes the turret before the final shot can finish him off. In goes the Xin Zhao. He does a whole lot of damage. This Set's Facebreaker is going to try and do everything he can, but everyone living on slivers of HP. That dive was picture perfect.
Great dive coming out from the side of AOE Zoomers. Fordola showing up. Aito and Derikos just showing up at the right time. And you know what? I'm going to hold my tongue for now, or hold my thoughts on the Xin Zhao. Going for Serrated Dirt decks, which I don't like either. But 4-0-4, it's working so far. 100% kill participation, has a massive gold lead. We'll just let Derikos be. We'll just let it happen for now.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine it's going to go towards maybe a Prowler's Claw, maybe an Eclipse. I can see it going towards several items. It'll allow him to do a lot of damage towards the squishy members, but I just, I mean, there's not exactly a lot of squishy members that you can hurt too badly. He's going to be going full Assassin Xin Zhao at this point. And he's got one of two options, the Ezreal or the Lulu. Either way, though, there's going to be a polymorph waiting for him. There's going to be a wild growth that he has to try and get through, the extra CC that comes with that, because he is a melee champion. It's nearly guaranteed to knock him up. It's not going to be the most fun times if you're the Xin Zhao, but when you're 4-0-4, you can afford yourself some a lot more wiggle room.
And just looking at the enemy team right now, the set's not very tanky yet. Has a little bit of health that's starting to build up in the form of the Gore Drinker. It's still not complete. You know, the Lee Sin has the Gore Drinker as well as those plated steel caps complete. Still not that tanky because you have the Dirk on top of it. So Derikos, I wouldn't be too scared if I were him quite yet.
Ooh, that's nervous. In goes the Ezreal. He's going to get hooked back. The reset for the Jinx comes through. Depth charge as well to follow through. And then now picks himself up another. Lee Sin trying to get something back for his team. Something, anything, but already he's losing his life. Walks right across the Chompers. Finally, one will fall. It's the Xin Zhao. Shutdown gold goes over to the set. He'll be able to get himself back into the game just a small bit, but over the wall. Jinx is firing away. I am balls on the front lines, but he is the only one here. Hooked back in. Riley on relatively low HP, but where is the follow-up? There is none. They're out of gas, flashing forward, looking for everyone. They're trying to clean house here.
They pick up 4 kills, trading only the shutdown of the Xin Zhao for it at the end, or once all is said and done. And we said that the one thing you don't want to do is feed the Jinx. Now we look at the Jinx. She's 5-0-5. She has the last Whisper, which was what we wanted to see. She's got herself almost a 3,000 gold advantage over this Ezreal at 16 minutes. Things are not looking good if you are the side of Eastern Michigan. You're worried at this point, because this Jinx is starting to scale way faster than you would have ever imagined.
Yeah, 5-0-5, 2 items at, nearly 2 items. I'm sure once she gets back to base, actually take a look at the gold. Oh, here comes Lee Sin though, and the jukes, she may have juked for too long. She allowed the Lee Sin to close the distance. Now running back to the tower. Oh, big shutdown to the Lee Sin. Maybe it would have been better to give that one over to the Ezreal. Teleport comes in. Who is actually being hunted here? In goes the Xin Zhao as well. They're collapsing from all different sides. The kick will be able to finish off the Seraphine at the very least, but that's the Crescent Strike to set up the takedown.
Oh, Riley's got to land this hook. This is so important.
Hook. Looking for it, but it meets nothing but terrain. Unfortunately for Drug, he's already got a Karma on the other side. And you know what they say, Karma's a good champion.
Yeah, Karma's a good champion, and don't do drug, kids. I guess you can say. Regardless, it ends up being a 3-4-2 there. Lee Sin able to pick up a couple of big kills, but at the end of the day, it's on your Lee Sin. Lee Sin is the epitome of early game champion. Once you get into the late game, he's better than he was before. Still not great in the late game, especially when you compare it to a Jinx, but for the time being, Craig's Gucci given over a shutdown. Unfortunate. The best thing is she didn't give it over to the Ezreal, which is very, very important in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, to add insult to injury, the Ezreal Arcane shifted forward he got himself killed with that Arcane shift to try and secure that shutdown gold. Didn't get the shutdown gold, dies immediately after. He's 0-4 now. It's going to be a while before he can actually complete his Manamune. And this big mid-game power spike that Ezreal is supposed to, really be the master of and turn the tides of battle, it's going to come so late that, I mean, by the time he has it, how much difference can he actually make?
By the time he has that item, Xin will be comfortably on those 2 items. Karma most likely gonna have a Chematech Putrefier as well. The Seraphine building towards what I believe is a Rylai's Crystal Scepter, so you can get the stun on your second charge of the E. And Jinx most likely gonna clean up a Berserker's Greave, most likely a Lord Dominic's Regards as well. So gonna be shredding through the front line. And man, I do not want to be Ezreal this game. Just straight up, I don't want to be this Ezreal, and Xin just finished the Eclipse as well.
To be honest with you, I don't want to be anyone on the side of Eastern Michigan right now, because these Zoomers it seems to be running over the game, and you can see right there how little the Mundo has to care now about the Karma, who only has Moonstone versus the versus Warmogs, versus the Plated Steel Cap, the Balmy Cinder, the mythic item I'm sure is soon to follow as well. He really can walk past anything this Karma does in the lane and start autoing the tower if he feels like it. That's how ridiculously far ahead he is.
And you can see they're extending their lead with the Rift Herald. Something we haven't pointed out is they picked up 3 dragons as well. They're on the Soul Point. It is coming up in coming up in 3 minutes, but we'll see if Eastern Michigan can find a team fight here.
Yeah, I mean, it's desperate times. It calls for desperate measures. Lee Sin over the wall. Maybe he's hoping for a big kick. Oh, that's the Encore. Barely not landing. Big tools no longer available in the toolkit. I Am Ball going to be lasting as long as he can on the front lines. Nautilus knocked in like you were talking about earlier. But where is the damage? Not enough. That's the answer. While it's being used. Nice little snipe. Weaves it through the upright. Jinx is online, baby. All the resets coming through. And Ezreal, you are standing alone. Your teammates are falling all around you. AOE Esports, AOE Randoms. They're having a fantastic time in this game 1.
AOE Zoomer's going to try and zoom in and pick themselves up. What could have been a pentakill. You can see in chat they're asking, come, please. They want the pentakill, but honestly, at this stage, pentakill or not, they're just going to start running over this game. Most likely picking up a mid lane inhibitor. They could go over to this Baron, could go over to the Dragon. Actually, fun fact, they're going to leave the inhibitor up, and now I get to talk about some fun things. What this does, no super minions going into the base, which means no extra experience for the side of Eastern Michigan. They are trying to end the game with that inhibitor as opposed to just take the inhibitor and go somewhere else. So at the end of the day, AOE are playing this perfectly, down to a T, and this Jinx 9-1-6, you can't stop her.
How happy are you right now if you're the coaches? Imagine this is a diamond level team that is implementing strategies that requires a lot of discipline. I mean, you see structures in front of you in League of Legends. What's your first instinct? Start knocking those things down, but instead they think better of it. They're going to make sure that their enemy team does not get too much extra CS funneled into them as a result of that early inhibitor take. And instead, they're just going to try and play around the objectives. They have 4th Drake coming up in a minute 15. They have Baron on the table. There's a lot of avenues they can use to win this game, and taking that inhibitor does not really increase your odds of winning like you'd think it would.
And effectively what they're doing is making the world their oyster. They can take the Baron, they can take the Soul, they can take the inhibitor. 3 different ways. If you have the enemy team that has to decide between 3 things, it's like, I don't know, if you're ever taking your significant other out on a date and you're like, okay, which restaurant do you want to go to? Do you want to go to sushi? Do you want to go to pizza? Or do you want to go to the steakhouse? More often than not, they're going to be like, I can't decide. There's too many options. You pick. At which point, one of them, they're going to all go all over the place and not be able to decide. And what that means is that AOE Zoomers are going to be able to zoom down and pick whichever objective they want and pick that up for themselves. So Soul is on the table. Doesn't even look like there's going to be a contest from Eastern Michigan. And now the world is not as much of an oyster, but they picked up a pearl out of it. So I don't know where I'm going with this.
But yeah, I mean, I totally relate to that analogy as a definite girlfriend's haver. I really just relate to that on a spiritual level as we see, a possible Baron sneak here out of Eastern Michigan University. They're going to be starting up, but they smell a fish in the water. They smell a rat somewhere on AOE randoms, and they're already starting to rotate their team over. The jig is up instead. They want to turn right on into the fight, but as the first cleaver does not land, where is the CC? Where is the follow-up? This play is dead in the water.
And really well played from Craig's Gucci there. Just didn't.
Whoa. Wind becomes lightning. Gonna give that Xin Zhao access. Encore to come in as well. There's the Crescent Strike. This Ezreal not doing any damage, but eventually they will take him down. Mundo is marching forward. Jinx is looking for her first reset, and she's oh so close to getting it. Out comes the Super Mega Death Rocket. Gets the AoE down onto the backline. It resets. They're running away, but it's the wrong direction. This is not how you get to your base, Ezreal. He's burning from the red buff. Should be dropping momentarily, whether it be to the Jinx, to the red buff, or to one last little drop of AoE. It's AoE randoms to end this game in style. Finally, they will be taking the inhibitor, and with it, the game.
And what they've done is they've made this Jinx a raid boss. You saw the set thrown into the backline there. Mundo walking right by everyone, but the Jinx does so much damage, just able to shred through all of that front line. Does not matter. She does not care about your front line. And looks like they might just be able to win the game with that Cloud Soul in tow and didn't even need the Purple Worm.
Yeah, I mean, Jinx gonna get excited, all the resets, extra attack speed. She should be able to finish off the Nexus. It looks like they're trying to stop this before it can happen. It's just gonna be down to a few autos, but it comes through regardless. AoE randoms take game one, convincing fashion, 23-6. That was a fantastic showing, and despite our doubts about the team comp, their play left nothing to be wanted.
It was just such a clean game coming out from AoE. They picked a comp that we were a little bit skeptical about. They built some items that we were a little bit skeptical about, but at the end of the day, they were able to execute on their comp. They got the Xin Zhao ahead in the early game. He was able to transition this Jinx into an absolute monster. She picks up a quadra kill. She picks up almost another quadra kill at the end there, and they just played the map absolutely spectacularly. And if, you know, just looking at the damage from our side here, Jinx did the most damage in the game. She did double everyone else on the enemy team's damage, at least. And for the most part, it was just the Jinx and Xin show there. But Seraphine really racking it up at the end there, too. You can see she was second highest damage.
Yeah, it really sneaks up on you. You never realize how much AoE is getting dropped in there until you actually take a look at the damage charts. But yeah, I want to look back to the proactiveness of AoE Zoomers. Saw how many dives they were willing to throw out for themselves. The Nautilus constantly starting those up. And yes, the Nautilus pick, it's a target for the set, but at the same time, when you're up against two squishies in the bot lane, it is a very good way to set up some easy dives, the teleports to come through. Very coordinated on the side of AoE randoms, and you have to give them props for that. They implemented very complex strategies, and they did it efficiently, despite, you know, maybe this not being one of the highest ranked leagues out there. They've definitely done their homework, and they have a bright future as a team if they keep working at it like that. That being said, we're going to be heading to a short intermission before we are back with game 2 of AoE randoms versus Eastern Michigan University. Stay tuned. We're going to see if they can turn it back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I hope you guys are having a wonderful evening watching this fantastic series. AOE Zoomers taking game one in dominant fashion, looking fantastic while doing so. They head up 1-0 in the series. Eastern Michigan University looking to take it back with this next game. I am joined once again by Rare Adam. How you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. We had a pretty interesting game one. Very short, very sweet, and very good for AOE Zoomers. They got themselves off to a 1-0 lead, and they're going to try and make our night nice and short, or everyone's nice and short.
Yeah, pack it up, send them home early. And despite Eastern Michigan University having a 2-0 week for themselves and looking fantastic in their own right last week, it looks like AOE Zoomers, I mean, as far as you can tell from that last game, simply outmatched and out-strategized their opposition. So we're going to be looking to see if Eastern Michigan University has what it takes to make that adjustment, whether it be in champ select or whether it be around those rotations. You saw so many proactive plays being made by AOE Zoomers and just having better map movements overall, really picking apart Eastern Michigan University. So it's going to take a lot of adjustments, and it's time to put the pedal to the metal and see what they're made of.
We'll have to see if maybe the substitution for Eastern Michigan is going to be the difference. Kanji Tatsumi was in the mid lane, going to be switching up to that top lane, and they've got their mid laner, PP Gobbler 69, coming in as their substitute mid laner. So we'll see if that makes any difference. But, you know, sometimes you just need that substitution to give you a little bit of that spark to get yourself back into it. And when we hop into a draft, we'll see if maybe the substitute mid laner here has something different up their sleeve opposed to the set from Kanji Tatsumi last game, which kind of looked okay. Wasn't great.
I mean, what better to turn it around than the Glizzy Gobbler himself? Let's see how he can turn it around for his team. On here will be the first ban. Answered with the Nocturne Aatrox, more of the same. We saw all these come out one way or another last game. The Aatrox was second rotation bans. Instead, they decided to put a little bit more priority on it this game, perhaps because of that little switch up in the rosters.
You can see that the set ban coming through as well has been, one of the, I don't want to say the highest priority top lane picks, but definitely up there in terms of priority. If you need something like a bruiser, they just want to take that off of the table because sometimes in that top lane you can get some better matchups. We saw it do pretty well into the Seraphine, taken off the table, but the Lulu going to get picked up for AOE Zoomers once again, or actually not for AOE Zoomers. It's going to be on AOE Zoomers this time around, whereas the side of Eastern Michigan going to pick up that Leona. So opting to go for the engage in that bot lane this time around as opposed to the Lulu from last game.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd like to see the Lulu being paired up with something that isn't as a spell castery. Leona Viego, though. Viego does get through that first round of bans this time. We saw last game, they were quick to take Viego off the board. Instead, it's going to be going over to the mid lane most likely. Could potentially be also a jungle flex as well. And so they're keeping up their strategies of not letting these lanes be noticed too early on in the draft. And answered, obviously, on the other side of the board, Karma's coming back for second helpings. Ezreal as well. And so Lulu, Ezreal, looks like may just get the run back here, unfortunately.
Have a theory here that considering that Aito played the Seraphine last game, this Lulu could go to the mid lane. And if Viego does match up into it, Viego does not have a whole lot of fun with Lulu just because she's so safe. She sits back, she farms up, and she's just able to get to that point where she can get to those two items. And Ezreal, Karma, very strong in lane. They've got a lot of poke, especially into something like a Leona Varus where they have to full commit. Sometimes if you miss that engage, you can take advantage of that with the Ezreal Karma. That's my 2 cents on it, but we'll have to see what they ought to go for. But Viego getting picked up, triple flex technically, could go top, could go mid, could go jungle. Has been very popular in the top lane recently with Divine Thunderer. Has also been quite good in the jungle with that item. So lots of flexibility coming out from Eastern Michigan once again. We'll have to see what they opt to go for.
Yeah, it seems like that's been the name of these drafts for both of the matches so far. And yeah, I mean, I would love to see the Karma go down to the bot lane. Karma, Ezreal, imagine laning against that. That is never any fun. The real threat comes post 6. Varus, Leona can both catch you with their ultimates. And once you get hit by one of them, you get chained into the other. And the amount of burst that can come out of those constant sunlight procs, the big blight stacks, they can cut through you very easily, especially if you're a Lulu Ezreal lane. You're not exactly rocking a ton of stats there. It's mostly just going to be that extra shielding, the extra HP that you get from the wild growth. And even then, I'm not sure if it's enough to actually help you live through that engagement.
Varus, Leona, just kind of the click R champions there, alongside the Viego actually in that sense. I think that what Eastern Michigan are going for here is really looking for those Viego resets in these team fights. You have that double enchanter that you can just sort of take over at will. You've got a whole lot of team fight coming up from Eastern Michigan now with the Diana pickup, so that basically confirms the Viego solo lane, but we're going to have to see what the side of AOE Zoomers want to draft as sort of a protect the Ezreal comp at this point, because, oh, never mind, they picked up a Kindred. They're just going all out in this one once again.
Well, you know what? I like this Kindred pickup a lot. The Lulu will synergize with the Kindred much better. Karma as well will help out there. And I mean, we saw some similar comps like this. Mostly Cloud9 will help draft around the Blabber Kindred. It hasn't worked out too amazingly for them in recent times, but it looks like the composition does have a very clear-cut idea on what they want to do. The only issue for me is who is going to deal with this Leona engagement. They don't exactly have a tank, a frontliner, to stop Leona from getting down and dirty into your back line and setting up the rest of the team for big damage, especially, oh, Diana. This is going to be painful. If she gets any type of multi-man ultimate, that could just end up destroying the team fight before it can even start, especially now that you have the Galio follow-up. Big dive from the Leona. I love the synergy in this composition. I think it's going to be fantastic to watch. It all depends on who can execute better. Kite back composition, definitely, for the side of the Kindred.
Yeah, you've got Kindred, Ezreal as your two major damage dealers, and once again, the double Enchanter. And you obviously look at the side of Eastern Michigan, and they say, let's see, the Leona dive, Viego dive, Varus, pretty good at diving actually with that ultimate. Diana, dive champ, dive champ. I count 4.5 dive champions there. Whereas on the flip side, you have this Kindred, who is very good at stopping dives with that ultimate. Lamb's Respite just turns everyone off for 3 seconds. Effectively, you can't kill anyone in that zone. Lulu, so good at stalling that out. Karma with her Mantra Shield, so good at stalling things out. Ezreal, he could just get out of there. Lee Sin, kick someone away. This is the dive versus the anti-dive comp, in my opinion, and we're going to have to see who executes better because, of course, from just from a point of view, team fight, very good. But if you can get those picks with the Lee Sin, with the Karma, with the Ezreal, if you can kind of cancel out their dive as soon as they use all of their damage on you and can stop the team fight there and stall it out long enough for Ezreal to build up that damage, then it's going to be very difficult for the side of Eastern Michigan to finish off those kills at the end.
Yeah, I would love to see. I mean, I think it all depends on how you execute these team fights. Flanking is going to be all important for the divers as well. If you see a dragon spawning soon, you want to be able to set up vision around it and find your team those opportune timings and those paths to actually get into the back line and to disrupt all the damage coming through. Now, as we get into this champ select, as we actually start to lock in all the picks, we're going to see where they go. It's going to be Diana jungle. Viego goes up top to do battle with the Lulu in the top lane. So like you said, we're talking about this Lulu-Viego matchup in the mid lane. Does that change at all now that it goes over to the top lane?
No. It's the same matchup at the end of the day. Technically, Viego has a little bit of a better time in terms of the top side wall there. It gives him a little bit longer to stay invisible. But at the end of the day, Fordola, who has played the Karma last game, going to pick up the Lulu this game, looked pretty good on those enchanters up on the top side. You just play safe until you get either the Moonstone, the Shirelias, whichever support item you want. You get that Oblivion Orb to cut through Viego healing. Effectively, it ends up being a very similar matchup. Viego with a little bit more damage, a little bit more 1v1 potential, but Lulu, no slouch in her own right. She's got a decent amount of wave clear and some really good utility to make sure that Viego can't get on top of her. Polymorph. Okay, sorry. Had that in my throat. I think I swallowed a cupcake that Lulu left for me.
Oh, yeah. And you say Varus is half of a dive champ. Well, you see a lot of Prowler's Claw on Varus. So, hey, let's make him into a dive champ. Screw it. He'll join the rest of the team. He can get in there if he wants as well. So I think there's just fantastic synergy on both sides of the board here. And it's interesting to see because, I mean, you see all of the win conditions for both of these teams. It's so clear cut. It all comes down to who can actually make it happen for themselves, and that's what makes these matchups so interesting. One thing's for sure, though, I do believe this is going to be a very snowball-y game. Whoever starts getting ahead, it's going to be really hard to stop that train from rolling. And one thing I do appreciate about this dive comp is I feel it is a bit more forgiving than the kiteback comp, because if you end up falling behind as the Kindred versus a Diana, Galio, Viego, even after the Lamb's Respite, it feels like Viego can just use the Heartbreaker to just pound you into dust. All he needs is that execute one time, and it's just reset city over and over again. He'll be able to gain all the HP back. And so I'm interested. I'm gonna have my eyes on the Viego especially, and I wonder if it's going to be Meow Meow up in the top lane to try and really unlock him on the champion to get him through that laning phase. If the Lulu can really start to harass him down so that he doesn't get too far behind and he can really become that ridiculous threat in the team fights.
Yeah, and I guess my last thought is just the side of AoE Zoomers have a harder to execute comp, but it can be absolutely amazing if they layer their cooldowns properly. After the Kindred ult fades, you have to make sure you still have your Lulu and Karma ultimates, your abilities still up and available so that you can extend these fights out even longer. So really going to be keeping an eye out on these enchanters specifically to see when they're using their cooldowns, because it will be very important for them to keep this Ezreal and Lee Sin and Kindred as well alive for as long as possible to extend their chances of winning those team fights. But we'll see how it goes. It's dive versus anti-dive. It's like I don't know, DC versus Marvel.
I like that. And so, the only place you can see DC versus Marvel in live action, it's the UML. We will be cutting to a short break to load into the game, but once we are in, we will be back and we'll see if this is going to be a very short night courtesy of AOE Zoomers, or if we get some fight back and go all the way to Game 3, thanks to University of Eastern Michigan. See you soon. Welcome back. We are live with Game 2. It's AOE Zoomers, apologies, versus University of Eastern Michigan. I am joined once again by Rare Adam, the one and only, the handsome, the courageous, the talented, the cute. How you doing?
Ooh, ooh. Pretty good.
I like it.
Pretty
I
good.
like it.
We were
Living up
talking
to the
about these.
moniker.
We were talking about these comps in the middle. We were having a little bit of a music talk. We said, isn't Eastern Michigan the bongo comp? And we're like, hey, you gotta aim the Verisalt, you gotta aim the Leona alt. If you Galio alt on the wrong person, not great. So we have dubbed it the drum set comp. Still pretty easy to play, but you gotta have a little bit of rhythm. But yeah, this is gonna be interesting. Of course, by play-by-play caster here, Tristan, looking good as always, and sounding pretty good behind the mic, apart from when he was choking on sushi rice.
Okay, I'm being outed by. Never mind. This is the worst co-caster of all time. This is the worst trade deal in the history of ever. But we got a leash on the bot side. Kindred going to be helped out here to pick up a very quick red buff early on. Up top, it's Viego starting the opposite side of the jungle. So more than likely, we won't be seeing the junglers interact with each other for a good portion of this game, or at least the first few clears, because they are going to be heading to the opposite side of the jungles.
And honestly, with Diana jungle, it's something we probably could have talked about in draft, but it's a farm till 6 champion. Of note, she did take Electrocute over the Conqueror that we've been seeing a lot more of, so meow meow gonna try and go for, you know, more of those assassinations as opposed to staying alive for as long as possible. So Kindred most likely gonna try and get those early ganks off. Derakos did a really good job of that last game on the Xin Zhao's, so we'll see if it's a repeat performance, but thus far lane's going about as expected. Lee Sin doing okay against the Galio, all things considered.
Oh yeah, just going for the early push. Wants to get that into the turret. Galio just trying to stop the sustain here. Punches him up, uppercut, and pounds him down. Just waiting on the cooldowns to come back up, but fairly low on both ends of the board. We'll see if junglers decide to get involved. Meanwhile, Lulu, using that range to his advantage. A few more autos could do the Viego in. This is looking brutal up top.
Yeah, Fordola just playing this lane really well. Has all of that sustain with the cookies and the corrupting potion. Those auto attacks just doing a little bit of extra damage on the back end of it. And Kanji Tatsumi not enjoying this lane. Oh no, not like this.
Oof, this one hurts. Help picks. He's helping all right, and he is doing plenty of damage. Here comes Kindred up into the top lane. This Viego has no idea what's about to hit him, and this one is an easy layup. Even flashing out afterwards, I don't think that was necessary. Didn't even have the turret aggro on the Kindred, but hey, better safe than sorry, right? They still managed to secure the first blood up top with ease, and now Viego, not only does he have to waste his teleport to get back into the lane, but he's already missed several minions while he was dead, while he was waiting to respawn.
Yeah, and actually look at this roam from the Galio. Thought it would be opportunistic to try and look for this bot side, but instead we'll just pick up the crab. A little bit unfortunate for the Kindred. And one thing to note that you can sometimes do on Kindred, this is just me being, you know, a nerd about this. Kindred should not have taken the crab on the top side. She could have waited until it remarks and potentially gotten a mark out of it. Just the small things, but we've always got to keep an eye out for Kindred marks, because early game she is good until about level 6, then she kind of is meh unless she has 4 marks, and you've always got to keep in mind the mark counter. Right now she has none. We're going to have to look for that 4 mark as quickly as possible.
Yeah, Kindred just waiting on her opportunity to actually kill any champions that she's marked, and here's maybe the opportunity as Diana starts to march forward, but there is backup here. Look at the bot lane already roaming forward. Leona and Varus ready to spring into action. Karma looking to answer here, and it will just
Riley
be the camp stolen for now, but Riley, ooh.
Just a flesh wound, just to give him a love tap there, but you know the power of this Leona Varus in the early game is they can push in the Ezreal. Like Karma is, I dare say, her main wave clear almost. She has to be the one who's constantly using the Spirit Flare onto the wave to keep it pushed out. But Diana.
That one looked a little bit nervous there. Diana does tag him up, but pre-level 6, not really willing to commit fully. Doesn't have the same kind of damage that you would expect.
Yeah, not too much damage quite yet. Of course, still just the first blood on the Kindred, but you can see the gold is even because of the difference in the lanes. Despite Viego going down early, has a wave lead now at this point, as Fordola opted not to teleport back, but that teleport advantage might come into play around that level 6 mark that we were talking about, where the drum set comp starts to look for some big plays around bot lane.
Yeah, more harassment up in the top lane. Viego, though, actually farming well. 33 CS to 26. So despite giving up the first blood, despite really struggling in this lane and getting kited out the entire time, he's still up in farm and he's stabilizing.
Yeah, starting to stabilize that lane. At the end of the day, Viego is Viego. You can't always look for those solo kills, especially as a Lulu. You just don't have that damage after level 3. And once the Viego can start to heal up off of the minions, you can see Fordola still doing a great job. But at the end of the day, Kanji Tatsumi is just going to be able to stay fairly safe overall.
Yeah, I mean, harassment is great and all. Getting damage down the lane, getting control of the lane is great, but if you're not actually converting that into a lead, then sometimes that could come back to haunt you later on in the game. I mean, you see players, you see the Bouse. He tends to, nice kick in the mid lane, getting Galio back into the middle of everyone. He goes for the big taunt. There's damage reduction there, but the numbers are simply not in his favor. He will be dropped. Some flashy mechanics from Ado to get him kicked right into the waiting arms of teammates. Instead, here's the counter attack. In goes Leona. Sunlight procs. Need a lot of upfront burst. The exhaust will keep him alive for just a little bit longer. Smites away the dragon for that extra HP. Look at this fantastic support play. Drug just standing in front of his jungler to keep him as safe as possible. He will be dropping. The sins of his teammate will be paid for in blood. Ido now going down. The hero's entry brings Galio back into the fray. Lulu teleports for the rest of the team. Yes, they may be able to pick up the dragon on the back half here. In fact, over the wall, the snipe being charged all the way, but it was blind, and he overshoots it by a mile. Now Galio looking to get back into the mix, but he's kited out. He puts himself to death.
What is going on? This teleport advantage ends up being... Oh, it's still going. Never mind.
Back in goes Diana. It's one last night, but Riley with the fancy footwork will get himself out of harm's way. Ada, when did you get back here? Where did you come from? Where did you go? Cotton Eye Joe, he is getting everything going his way. As we see a multi-team committal there the entire time. Viego just farming plates up in the top lane saying, guys, you might not want to keep this party going.
I guess you could say it was Cotton Eye Toe coming through there.
Okay.
Regardless,
get him out of here. Does anyone have tomatoes I can throw?
AOE Zoomers doing a great job of cleaning up the messiest fight in all of UML this season. Everyone just kept teleporting in, just continued the fight on, and at the end of the day, no one ends up getting the dragon. Kindred gets caught out off of the Diana and the Leona, but then Varus comes through, a PP Gobbler teleports down, and at the Kanji Tatsumi did not move from top lane, so while he gets a plate for himself on the top side, is it really worth going down now 4 kills in this game? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's definitely rough. And I mean, maybe there were opportunities where they could have disengaged on the side of AOE Zoomers, but I mean, it is what it is. We're gonna have to take it at face value. The Viego did get plenty of gold up in the top lane, despite the Lulu being 2-0-2. He's actually only up around 400 gold. The Viego now has a big wave to collect up in the top lane. It's gonna help him extend his CS lead. Diana back over to the dragon. Looks like this may just be a trade of objectives across the map.
And realistically, the gold difference in the top lane, if Lulu has a gold lead, it's great, but it doesn't matter as much in the end because Lulu's items are really cheap. You buy support items, they're always 2,500 gold. Maximum you get is basically your mythic at 2,500 gold. So she's still going to be able to get the items that are important. And look at how much harass she's able to put down onto Kanji up in this top side. He's just trying to farm the wave. And yet they're going to potentially look to break first turret here with the Rift Herald from Durakos.
Oh yeah, and Varus, now that he has the serrated Dirk, he is starting to do a lot more damage. These are going to hurt more and more as time goes on. In fact, they're just pressuring off plates. Jungler's starting to hover bot side, not showing the ward just yet. They now have a glimpse of Diana. Layson will try and answer here to make this a 3v3 down bottom, but the Herald will be taken off the first turret up in the top lane. This may actually not be the best of decisions, as now the Viego has the option to freeze a bit closer to his turret. So hopefully they do make sure that wave bounces back. Instead, they're just going to let the Herald do its own, leave it to its own devices. And so if I'm the Viego up in the top lane here, I'd love to see a freeze.
Actually don't think this wave is going to end up freezing, especially with how Viego is clearing it out. Right now it looks like it'll push back. So all things considered, unfortunately, you did not take your advice on that one. But using that Rift Herald up on the top side means that you get more gold off of it now. With the changes on the recent patch, side lane turrets are worth more. So using that Herald, not the worst case situation. Frees up Lulu to go wherever she wants on the map. And actually just going to take a check on the Kindred mark counter. She has 1 mark, so she's getting there. Quarter of the way there.
Looks like she'll have 2 fairly soon here as the scuttle does spawn with the marked topside river, but it will be contested. This is by no means a free scuttle. In goes Diana. We may just see some fireworks here out into the middle of 2. Already the Moonfall being used early on. Lamb's fight to keep the Kindred alive, but the hero's entrance will pound him afterwards. Flashing the Heartbreaker. Lee Sin is trying to use that Ward Hop to get himself to safety. Here comes Lulu. The counterattack is here, but Leona joins the fray as well. It's the numbers advantage for the red side, and they're making good on it. Lee Sin dropping in just a moment. Flash forward from the Galio. Now Lulu caught out, will have to escape over the wall. This Kindred will not be having a mark today.
Yeah, Kindred gonna miss out on the mark, and looks like the play will fizzle out, but really good play from the side of Eastern Michigan. They're able to respond to the Kindred's aggression, and they thought they cut out Diana, but who was catching out who? Diana was just the bait. She was the laser pointer for the rest of her team to come through.
Yeah, and I mean, Diana, when you walk it that close to her, your Lee Sin doesn't even have a full item yet. This Diana can really hurt you, and Galio can just join at whatever point he wants to. He's close enough to the point where he can just hit R, and suddenly he's right on top of you in the play. Diana wants to dive on 2 squishies like that, and yes, the Lamb's Respite can keep you alive for just a little bit longer, but Viego's ready to execute you. You saw the Kindred had to predict Flash and dodge the Viego ult right after the Lamb's Respite wore off. Riley, he could be in some trouble here, trying to freeze the wave. He ends up getting himself put on ice.
I was unfortunate as well because he's just trying to do the good support thing, trying to be, MVP support for Craig's Gucci here. Freeze the wave up, make sure that Ezreal can get as much from her as possible, and ends up costing her life. So that freeze, not worth it. But regardless, they're starting to pull it back in here. They're starting to claw their way back into this one. Only about 1,000 gold separates the 2 teams at this point, and we're gonna wait to see what happens because Ezreal still hasn't died. This Lulu 2-0 and 2 has been, doing her job up in this top lane, which is not die.
Yeah, I mean, not die. She continues to do as Galio was looking for a play there, didn't quite find it, and still getting plenty of harassment off. Viego's yet to finish up his first mythic item. Once he gets that under his belt, suddenly this lane could look a lot more volatile, but hey, Lulu has been doing a great job thus far, and especially, like you said, drawing pressure, not giving into it.
Yeah, she's been drawing 2 members to the top side consistently, and oh my goodness.
Oh, Ado tried to get behind the Leona, but the Leona buffers with that Zenith Blade. He gets himself behind the Lee Sin. The kick was never going to launch her back in after that, and it's just a play dead in the water.
Yeah, Kanji teleported in because I think Fordola teleported in, and that wasn't a very good teleport, but Resican now might be risking it for a little bit more of this wave, and Kindred's on the hunt.
I think Kanji was, Fordola now in some trouble here. The taunt will connect. Meow, meow. He is going to get himself a nice little treat as he flashes forward. Moonfall now catches out too. Ado does have his mythic item completed, and look at the extra power he gets. Back in goes the Galio, looking to get that extra bit of CC. Missing the Q. It's going to be up close. Ado gets the extra HP out of the Triumph, and Galio is simply out of gas. Under the turret, Leona going to try and stun up Ado for just a little bit longer, but the extra HP that he is gaining back from the Gore Drinker keeps him safe, and it's just a double up for the Lee Sin.
Lee Sin, very strong solo laner, very strong at this one item point, and just stays alive forever. And you saw Meow Meow try and get the double there, but in the end, it is she who is doubled alongside PP Gobbler 69.
Oh yeah, and you see the Diana Moonfall not quite having as big of an impact as you saw last fight, simply because of the item difference. Lee Sin able to complete his mythic, and Diana still not having hers completed up just yet, and that's the difference maker between you getting that double kill and you end up getting yourself killed along with your mid laner. Galio also lacking his own first item as well, and that's going to make a big difference when it comes to these small 2v2 skirmishes.
Yeah, looking at how these skirmishes are starting to play out, you can see that it is a game of inches in that sense. It could have very well been a 2-for-0 in that mid lane or near that jungle fight there with the Lee Sin, but Aito just played it so well, was able to pull it out. I'm really worried about the 5v5 team fights though, because right now the side of AOE Zoomers don't have as big of a lead as they probably would have hoped for in this early game. We're just going to have to keep an eye on Craig's Gucci as well as Derakos to see how they play these fights and if they can stay alive for as long as possible.
Yeah, I mean, at least the Ezreal is now ahead of the Varus 1-0-2, finishing up the mythic item. Once he has that 2 spike it's going to be a lot of damage, and he can finish off players very quickly. Diana caught once again. It's the hand of the cookie jar. Down goes the Moonfall. May want to one-shot Riley before he goes down and can't bring anyone to the grave with him. It's just going to be a freebie so far, as we see down on the bottom side, everyone else starting to collapse in, but it simply wasn't in time to support their jungler, who seemingly went on a solo mission there.
Yeah, Diana, a little overextended at the end of the day. Not where you want to be, especially when you're all about that team fight. But mid lane.
Ooh, Zenith Blade, max range will go in, but no one really left there as more of a bluff. No one in the area. Heartbreaker now closes the gap onto Fordola, who still does have the wild growth available if needed. Instead, walks it out.
Yeah, Kenji still has enough sustain in the kit right now to be able to survive Fordola, which is weird to say because normally it's supposed to be Fordola has enough sustain to survive Kenji, but as it has been thus far, the Viego's just trying to get back onto their feet, and this 1v1 shouldn't be this close. It should be Kanji really punishing Fordola, and it should really be Aito up on that top side, but they've been able to assign these lanes in a way that benefits the side of AOE Zoomers, and they're starting to build more of a lead here in this mid game.
Yeah, you asked, they replied. In goes the Lee Sin, wanted to get back onto Leona, but instead it's the AoE, it's the chain CC. Lee Sin uses that Gale Force, Gore Drinker, sorry, I am stumbling over my items here as the Lamb's fight comes out, but maybe Draco's had a better idea if he just ran for the hills, because now he's got some more members to contest with. Lulu's here again, now with the shielding, he can try and move back in, maybe trade something back. Bears off to the side, still doesn't have the ultimate, can't root someone up, flashes forward, Lulu's in the front lines, gonna have to use the wild growth on himself, but it's not gonna be nearly enough HP to survive that kind of burst. Karma very nearly cut down to the back end of the fight, as that archer is piercing hearts.
Really well played fight out of Eastern Michigan. They get all 5 members in the same place at one time, and that's exactly what their comp demands. Derricos gets taken down, Aito gets taken down, just everyone falls down in order. Derricos actually stayed alive, pardon me. It was Fordola who went down. They were just able to continue the fight on, and that's where Viego is strong. When you can keep these fights going, you get a whole bunch of resets, and you saw what happened there. There was just no reply from AoE Zoomers.
Yeah, and that fight just looked so dominant. It almost felt like they were down a person or something. It felt like they simply had no real room to actually get themselves back into the mix once that initial dive started off. And some criticism has to go over to Aito there. Went for a very ambitious kick and instead really just put himself out of the frying pan into the fire and started off the fight as just a clear death for his team.
Yeah, clear death from the get-go. Aito actually kind of got outplayed by Drug. Drug was able to flash away so that the kick went the opposite way. They weren't able to get the pick that they wanted, and it started to go downhill from there. Regardless, AoE still in a very favorable position. They've got themselves some good vision around this. They actually don't have very good vision around this dragon. That's the opposite side. Eastern Michigan have good vision around this dragon. They have good positioning as Aito looks for Drug once again.
Oh, Drug in a whole lot of trouble here. This time the kick does land, and even if it didn't, I'm sure Drug was dead to rights. They're a bit too far forward, having the support of the team. With 20 seconds left on the Dragon, this one should be clear-cut going over to AoE Zoomers as they extend their lead.
They're just going to continue to try and look for these picks. That's what their comp wants to do. Ezreal's so good in these 2v2 situations, or 1v4 situations, if you want to put it that way. And Lee Sin as well. If you can get the kick onto one person, move them back into your team, just makes it really straightforward, and they're going to be able to pick up the dragon here.
With that, Cloud Soul once again on the marks here. We saw it last game, we see it this time around. AoE Zoomers looking to collect on the same soul, but look at all the damage this Galio is doing. A single burst, nearly taking out the Lulu. Holding his nerve is Fordola, who still does have the wild growth available. Out comes the teleport as well. Lee Sin wants to follow up here. Sees a few members in his sights, and if this Q tags either of them, I'm sure they are gone.
Yes, and Galio...
Oh, that is a nice
directed
little audible.
Camera. Wow, directed camera hurt my eyes there for a little bit, but that was a really good view there. You just saw PP Gobbler get out of there at the last second. Forced to use that ultimate, which is quite a long cooldown, means that your team fight isn't as strong the next time around, but you lived. That's what's important.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with the Baron up now, you giving over your life there with the rest of your team on fairly low HP and your Viego bot lane. At the very least, your Viego would be forced to teleport in to try and stop the Baron push, and you'd be down a summoner there. So good to keep his good to keep his life alive despite the long cooldown. I'm sure it was very worth it considering all that could have been taken on the back end. Meanwhile, we see back in the mid lane, AOE's just doing what, or ADC's doing what ADC's do, farming it out. Ezreal now with the Divine Sunderer completed. 360 stacks, full stacks on the tier. Once he completes that Manamune, it's good to go.
It'll be a really strong power point for him as well. Has that Divine Sunder already. Believe that the Ezreal should have enough gold. It does actually have enough gold to finish that up once he backs as well. But you can see the gold difference between the 80 carries, about 1,000 right now. Up on that top side, it's finally flipped back into Kanji's favor after all of that. But Fortola doesn't care. Fortola's Lulu. Lulu doesn't need a whole lot of gold to be effective, as you can see through that build. 2 full completed items there, and the Kindred as well, still holding a sliver of a margin over the Diana right now. Just trying to get that Collector, it looks like, for that. Is that Collector? That is Collector, if it is getting built. Kindred's going to build the lethality item. That's what I say.
Yeah, more than likely it is going to be the Collector. I mean, those are the 2 components of it. I can't imagine this going to anything aside from that would really fit into the build. And so I'd at least hope it's Collector. Out goes, look at that damage from the Ezreal. That's what happens when you have this 2-item power spike. 1 Q and the Arcane Shift tacked on. That destroys the Varus, forces out the heal just like that.
Yeah, Varus was surprised by that damage as much as we were. Just Ezreal right now, 2-0 and 3, as we said, got that Mira mana as soon as he backed, and that's the power of Ezreal. That's why Ezreal's one of the strongest 80 carries right now.
Oh yeah, 0 and 3. The Galio only rocking a single item right now, and this Galio, I don't believe he's really going to be providing all that much damage come these next fights, and so they're really going to be depending on this Diana and Viego to make themselves useful to behind the Varus. He can't really poke an entire team out on his lonesome when they have this many shields to work with. Especially
with the shielding from Lulu, from Karma. Of course, Lee Sin has a shield in his own right. It's going to be hard to cut through that. Really want to see if the Varus picks up a Serpent's Fang.
And I feel like a lot of Galios really fall into this trap of just kind of being a CC bot. They don't really, I mean, as a Galio player, you kind of have to be willing to put your body on the line and to really sacrifice yourself so that your teammates can be activated. When you're stuck on one item at 23 minutes as, you know, your mid lane AP source, you know, it's definitely rough. You're not gonna be very threatening to a lot of the carries in the fight, but sometimes all you need is that CC. Sometimes all you need is that damage reduction you can give to your teammates and the follow-up to allow them to really do what they need to do on these high damage assassins.
And you know, just waiting for this Diana Galio combo to really come to light. We haven't seen a full-on team fight this entire game yet. And now with some bigger objectives up and available, the Baron, the Dragon, which is basically soul point for the side of AOE Zoomers, we should see some action soon. I feel like Eastern Michigan are just trying to farm up, but I'm concerned that they're waiting a little too long. There is a lot of really good scaling on the side of Zoomers there. Lulu and Karma don't fall off. Ezreal and Kindred, they don't fall off either. Lee Sin's really the only one who falls off, and he'll just get tankier.
Yeah, and Ezreal will start getting tankier at a point as well. He can start building more of the defensive items once he finishes his core build. It'll get harder and harder for someone like Viego to assassinate him like this composition is aiming to. As we see the next dragon spawning in 13 seconds, both teams starting to converge on the area, getting control of around their river respectively. Nice AoE there.
Yeah, good AoE from AoE. Getting that true shot barrage, but Dragon's now the focus, and gotta be careful here.
Drug loses half of his life off of a single WQ combo. He's got to be careful. An Arcane Shift in. Drug's nearly dead to rights. Landor Spike keeps the entire team alive for just a little bit longer. They're trying to avoid getting caught up. Lee Sin kick goes through many, and there are so many low HP bars. They're getting dropped left, right, and center. Who can stop the Ezreal? No one!
And this is what we were talking about from the beginning. You save your cooldowns until the Kindred ult has expired. They wait. They keep Derikos alive for so long. And at the end of it, he walks out with 100 HP. Just so well played from AOE Zoomers. And they're zooming right over to this Baron. And this could be a huge gold swing in their advantage, which could lead to them winning this game.
Yeah, that was a gorgeous Lamb's Respite there too. You saw so many people about to die that were perhaps saved for a little bit. I mean, perhaps the Lamb's Respite wasn't even at the best time because Drug was about to go down. But even then, whether you can deliberate the actual efficiency of the ultimates, it just shows how strong the composition is because regardless, they steamrolled the fight. It didn't even look close there.
And in some ways, the ease of execution might have been the downfall for Eastern Michigan. They just thought, let's press all of our R's at the same time, which is exactly what they did. But they couldn't kill Derakos. They couldn't kill the Ezreal, who got a lot of damage off in that fight. And now, with the gold lead up to 5,000 here, we're going to see a big purchase in, full Frozen Heart from the Ezreal. And the full Mikhail's Blessing from Lulu. All of these item breakpoints are coming through way faster than the side of Eastern Michigan can keep up with. You can see Varus at the end of that picked up a couple extra long swords, which is very nice.
Yeah, it's a nice little consolation prize, I suppose. But I don't know about you, but if I had the choice between 2 long swords and a full Frozen Heart, I'm going with the long swords, of course, baby. Damage only. What do you think I am? Don't get it messed up. But yeah, that's why I'm not playing in these games. I'm just casting them. So as we see here, 14-7, they're extending the kills, they're extending the gold, and AOE Zoomers might be going to bed early tonight.
AOE Zoomers, looking at the gold here on screen, the Ezreal's up 2,000 gold, the Lee Sin is up 1,600 gold, the Kindred's up 800 gold as well. Just all of the carries, all of the damage dealers are ahead in their own right, but even the supports have themselves a good chunk of money. Ooh, ultimate.
Ooh, big solar flare there. Catches all 3. Ezreal manages to buffer himself right on out. They get Lamb's Respite, goes down early, but big AoE in the backside. They don't use all their cooldowns immediately. Ado able to trade back 1. The Varus will get assassinated there, but still overwhelmingly in the favor of Eastern Michigan.
And that looked... Wow, that looked so good for Eastern Michigan. They just couldn't clean up the Ezreal, and I think if they pick up that kill onto Ezreal, it ends up turning this into their favor so much more, but it's just a 2-for-1. They used everything, and they're only able to take down the Kindred and the Karma, one of which is a priority target, but the Ezreal is still alive, still has that 800 gold shutdown on his head.
Galio did pick up a bounty off the Kindred, so that is just a little bit of gold back into the pockets. It was only 150, so nothing too spectacular, but hey, you'll take what you can get if you're Eastern Michigan right now. Your backs were pinned up against the wall. You were facing down a Baron buff. I mean, really, that was the beginning of the end unless you put your foot down, and a fantastic solar flare there from Drug catches 3 in it. And yes, the Ezreal was able to get the Arcane Shift off, but even then, he still got hit by the stun. He was still locked into place for a little bit, and they didn't have to use all of their ultimates to make a pick happen. That's crucial, because after the Lamb's Respite, the Moonfall was able to secure some kills.
Moonfall is such a strong teamfight ultimate. You saw Meow in the middle of that one. Love saying that name now. I thought it would be a little cringe, but it's fun. Meow into the back line, just jumping all over them, treating them like a whole bunch of catnip, but it's a strong teamfight ultimate. It's really good at keeping everyone together, and if you can use it on the back end of these fights as well, once the Kindred ultimate is used, it can guarantee you a couple of kills almost every time.
And it's always fun to see how both teams can interact after the Lamb's Respite wears off. We saw in the Dragon fight that AoE won so heavily. The Lee Sin, after the Lamb's Respite wore off, was able to get a multi-man kick to CC and drop everyone extremely low for the rest of his team to finish it off. That time around, it was after the Lamb's Respite, everyone was funneled up for the Moonfall to catch out a lot of people. And so, really, when you're in such a close quarters scenario like that, and everyone wants to remain inside of the Lamb's Respite to keep themselves alive, on the other end of it, depending on who has the better cooldowns, they can really find themselves some big hits. As we see the dragon spawning in 35 seconds, this is sole point for the AoE Zoomers. This is going to be fought over one way or another.
And of note, Cloud Soul isn't the best on the side of AoE Zoomers, but of note, they're keeping it out of a team where it's very, very good. But Akanji running for the hills already.
I'm surprised he got out of that so easily. I was fully expecting him to get run down. This is looking awkward. Both teams trying to find a way into the fight. Just poke going off right now. And both teams do have poke for themselves, and so no one feels the need to force off a fight. You can let your Varus do the work. You can see if your Ezreal can start tagging up the front line.
Yeah, Ezreal is really awkwardly positioned behind this wall. We'll have to see if anyone's going to pull the trigger, because the poke is good on both sides, but Aito wants to go in. You can see it in his eyes.
Oh, but Drug, he's getting hit up here, looking for his own Solar Flare. Instead, Solar Flare does land onto the Kindred. Lambda Fight being forced out very early. What do they have on the back end? Hero's entrance won't knock up anyone. He just walks into the team. Meanwhile, Aito has assassinated the Leona. Everyone is falling, and it's AOE Zoomers who play it that much better.
And this is what we were saying. Don't press all your buttons at the same time. Kanji's going to get taken down by Aito here. He's got all the blood in his eyes.
And the Viego really has not been too spectacular this game. I haven't really seen a fight yet that's made me convinced that the Viego is an integral part of this team. Instead, he's kind of just been a side note, a cliff note on the exclamation marks that both of these teams have been leaving.
Viego just... I'm going to say it. He's done nothing. He didn't do well in the lane. Got one fight where he got a reset, but they're just a clean ace for AoE Zoomers. And they might end this game right here. Probably not with those timers, but Baron's up on the table in 15 seconds. That's a free objective for them at this point.
You're going to make me say it. I don't care that you locked in Viego. That's essentially what's been happening up in the top lane. Lulu has been shrugging off the Viego this entire game, even when you get to the point where we thought the Viego was going to be able to turn the lane around once he had those item breakthroughs. Still, Lulu just played it as safe as possible, knew that his job was done. It was all in the hands of his carries, and his carries have been doing a fantastic job of keeping themselves safe in fights, keeping themselves constantly pumping out the damage. 4-0-10 on the Ezreal, has not dropped once this game, and I'm sure once we take a look at the damage charts afterwards, he is going to be sitting pretty at the top.
Just so much damage coming out from the side of AoE Zoomers. Of course, as we expect, going right over to this Baron, looking to try and clean up the game. They have the Cloud Soul. They prevented the drum set comp from really popping off, but Meow Meow might have something to say about this Baron, actually, as they show up in time.
This one could get interesting. Varus poke not going to hit much at all just yet. Out comes the True Shot Barrage, and that tags several members. Good, and he's been doing such a great job so far this game. Greg's Gucci, he loves to use that Arcane Barrage early on, and he seems to get multi-man hits off every single time. As we see both teams starting to dance around here, the extra movement speed from the Cloud Drake will give some ease of access here as Leona does get hit on the front line. Dracos wasn't able to get the Lamb's sight down. He's already dead. Lee Sin now caught in the middle of everyone. Lulu already using the Wild Growth. They have no ultimates. That was just a clean 2 picks.
That was really unfortunate. Kindred did not press R there. Could not stay alive, but look at all the poke coming back. Greg's Gucci so fast.
My goodness, this Ezreal walks right in, flashes out. That looked a little bit awkward for a second there, but the extra movement speed from Lulu is enabling him to get so aggressive. Now that the big ultimates have already been used up here, what do they have to fight with? The knockup just barely hitting the Ezreal, but he's doing so much damage here. Now finally he's tagged up. He's locked down for just long enough, but he is still alive somehow, some way. Everyone is low. They're getting chased down over the wall. Arcane shifting forward, but Greg's Gucci, there's the resets they were looking for. In goes the Viego. He's got another.
And finally, we see the Viego get a kill. But of note, the Ezreal go down. That was such a big pick. But look at those health bars. They're blinking red. And there's a teleport behind. This fight is not over, Tristan.
And Diana getting the shutdown gold. Aito now. He'll be the man on the front line. Assassinated in the middle of 3. Lee Sin, he has the triumph. All he needs is the kills. 2 for him. Looking for his third. Viego's in the front lines. Level 60, level 50, but he is cut down right before he can finish the job. Durakos is able to clean up the Diana on the other side, and it is 1 man left standing for each side.
Yeah, Durakos is trying to heal up as much as possible.
Party is not finished. Heartbreaker to close the distance, eating the stun. This Kindred wants to stand and fight, but he doesn't land the ultimate. Now it's just a matter of waiting for the cooldowns to come back up. Dracos has plenty of damage available. The stun doesn't hit. Auto. No, it's the Viego. Time and time again, he is standing the test, and that should be the end of the game.
Should be, but
I'm looking at the wrong side here. my apologies. I had some colors mixed up in my head, but man, what an adrenaline rush from that last 30 seconds of the game. Last 30 seconds of the fights, like
the last
never ended.
The last 3 minutes of that game. We at the beginning of that Baron play, it was 5 minutes until Elder. Now we're 2 minutes away from Elder. I'm pretty sure everyone there died there except for Kanji, but of note, Winions in that mid lane picked up those 2 Nexus towers, and Last game we were saying picking up the inhibitor funnels them so much gold, but they weren't able to clear that mid wave for so long in that fight, and they were able to pick up a couple of Nexus towers for that. So now open Nexus for the side of AoE Zoomers to potentially pick up, and with Elder Dragon and Baron both going to be, or Elder Dragon at least spawning in the next 80 seconds here, could be a little bit of a coin flip here if they want to go for this Baron to try and end the game.
Ooh, they are going for the Baron, and man, we are just not getting a moment to breathe, because as soon as the fight ends, they are back to their old shenanigans, starting up objectives, trying to force them to walk in. Now, Diana is level 15 right now. They're level 16 now, has the rank 3 ultimate, crucially got the shutdown from last fight. She has the Rabadons completed. I'm going to be looking at her this fight, and we may see it come into fruition very soon here, as the Baron is already under 3k HP. It's going to come down to the smite. In goes Diana, wanted to steal this one away. Kindred goes for it. Kindred gets it. Diana's gone. Can't even ultimate. Out comes the Lamb's Respite. This is going to be AoE Zoomers. If I had to guess, if I had to put my house on it, Kindred will be going down here, but the Ezreal just waiting on the Zonyas to complete. We'll take down the Galio, but now he's in the front line himself. Diego steals away the Kindred Soul, looking for even more, but he can't get the reset. He is dropped. He is taken care of, and it's a triple kill for the AoE Zoomers AD carry. Greg's Gucci is Gucci, and that should be this series wrapped up nice and neat with a little bow on top.
Just so well played from AoE Zoomer, specifically for Dola. For Dola was able to get that polymorph on the Viego at the back end of that fight that kept Treg's Gucci alive for just that little bit longer. And they're just going to clean up the 2-0. They're making our life nice and easy. AoE Zoomers, 2-0.
GG's in the chat, GG's in the stream. Thank you guys for joining us for this wonderful best of 3 today. It was a lot of fun watching, despite, maybe the scoreboard for that last game looked to be one-sided for AoE Zoomers, but that game itself was definitely not one-sided. It was back and forth, and there were moments there where it looked like Eastern Michigan University was clawing themselves back into the game and were about to take off with it, but instead, every time the Zoomers were called upon, they answered and they passed the test with flying colors to have themselves a 2-0 week, and really, that was a blast to watch and to cast as well.
For sure, we saw both teams really come into their colors there in game 2. And while Eastern Michigan do go down, they can hold their heads high in knowing that they made a game that looked lost after a couple of those fights. They were able to claw that back, specifically around that first attempt at the second Baron there. They were able to really give AoE Zoomers a little bit of a run for their money, but at the end of the day, AoE Zoomers just were able to outdraft in both of these games, picking those double enchanters, just being able to kind of out-meta the side of Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, and let's also give credit to the individual players for Dola. Despite the Lulu maybe not getting, it's not the most flashy of champions. It's not the most attention-grabbing champion, but he kept his Viego so oppressed up in the top lane. It's like Ado, despite him falling in that early river skirmish, he brought it back. He got the double kill mid lane with some fantastic play around his Gore Drinker. I saw him getting a ton of life of Vamp during these fights because he was constantly using his Gore Drinker at perfect timings. And so each of these teams had to execute on their composition, and it just looked like AoE Zoomers were just executing flawlessly when it came down to the wire. And that's what got them this 2-0 victory today. That being said, it's going to do it for us here on the cast. We'll be signing off. Thank you so much for joining us. And are there any shout outs you want to give us before we're wrapping this thing up?
Shout out to my mom.
Shout Mom, I love that. All right, well, I was going to shout out my Twitter, but now I just feel rude if I did that instead. So shout out to my mom too. I'll just copy your homework.
Shout out to the Twitter as well. Rare Adam Casts, by the way.
Yeah, Tristan casts as well. If you want to keep up with us, hey, we do a lot of fun stuff on it. I think we're funny. I think we're handsome. And I think you should stop by. It'd be a lot of fun. Other than that, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be signing off. Until next time.